Okay, everyone. Hello. This is Renetta, and I would like to present to you the new society. The old is gone, therefore, we must build the new before they do. And I was assisted by ChatGPT and DeepSeek to get this completed. What's the new society? The new society takes a look at where we are, where they're trying to take us, and create an intersection where we can command a society that represents us. And the only way in which AI, robots, and humans can live is if humans control and work with robots and AI, and not robots and AI replacing us as they want, as they would like. There are five pillars of intelligences that are required for the new society. So, in order for a new society to develop, we have to change the people internally how they view things. First intelligence is moral intelligence. That's the principles of justice, fairness, compassion, and restorative justice. And as a victim of injustice, moral intelligence is something that is grossly lacking in this system. And with social media, it is lacking even more. There are people on social media with moral intelligence. It's very difficult to find, right? So we need a society where people have moral intelligence and their moral intelligence translate to society. Ethical intelligence. Ethical intelligence, the principles are sustainability, equity, accountability, and human dignity. And the systems around ethical intelligence are circular economies that take into consideration the entire ecosystem the person lives in and makes way for both the human, the biological, and now with the introduction of the digital AI and the robotic. Spiritual intelligence. Spiritual intelligence means a person in relationship to their environment, their interconnectedness with their environment, and what happens, our legacy once we leave that environment. And spiritual intelligence could be your faith, it could be secular belief. And there are ways in which we can develop a holistic approach to spiritual intelligence for a society. Emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence, the principles are empathy, which is something that is lacking. People want to be superstars in this space. I've seen it happen, and I've sat back and watched the people gravitate to the superstars and watch them cry. After a couple years, people become greedy, people become, narcissistic, people become jealous, they fight. Why? Because the principles of emotional intelligence was not built into them. So there must be a mandate for emotional intelligence literacy and education in school, as it pertains to mental health and building an empathy infrastructure in people. And part of our civic collective healing, there must be platforms where people are free to express and share and develop emotional intelligence. And last and finally, in order to build any society, it requires brain power. So, last and finally, of the intelligences is intellectual intelligence, the ability to think, the ability to be curious, to ponder stuff, and then the ability to innovate and create. So, we need to create universal lifelong learning ecosystems that are free, accessible, knowledge hubs, and we have to be able to track the development of intellect over a period of time. We should have open access knowledge commons for people of all walks of life so that people can develop their intelligence. And we can do that with public funding and critical thinking and innovation incubators. Everywhere, people should be free to create and invent. I call it build, create, sow, harvest, earn, learn. And after we develop in the new system, after we develop the person internally, then we begin the process of education. So the first education is building the new citizen. And the new citizen must be governed by five intelligences. And after the person is well rounded with their emotion, well rounded with their mind and their spirituality and their real identity, not their gender. Your gender is not your identity. Your real identity is your ethics, your morals, your spirituality, your emotional intelligence, and last and finally, your ability to solve problems. After those are developed in the person, then you educate the person. And a decentralized education to me is the only way. So, in order to do this, in order to create the new society, we have to change education. Children can't be in class. Children are naturally curious. They can't be in class for 8 hours a day having stuff drilled into their heads, right? Children need to run around, they need to explore, they need to think things through. They love to build, they love to break things down, they love to, engage. So we have to create an atmosphere where children are learning 4 hours a day. They're free to exercise an hour. And then the last final 4 hours of the day is children should be able to invent, build, create, design. If they want to plant and harvest, they can go into farming. And most importantly, earning and investing must start at an early age. I say learn to earn. We need to reshape education from just being drilled into being, into following orders to earning, learning first and then earning second, and last and finally, solving problems. So after we educate the new man, now we're ready for the new economic model. Why? Because the whole concept of the new society leads us to a new economic model for the people. And in order to have that new economics for the people, you have to create the new man, right? You have to create the new man spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and then the new man has to be educated. And when the new man is educated, now the new man is given their own economy. A decentralized demographic economic model based on identity groups. So what it is not is identity politics, which is weaponized, and ideological politics, which is weaponized. But in both systems of politics today, the citizens lose. You're overtaxed, you're working 3 jobs, your cost of living goes up, the money you earn, you keep less, you work more, and you can't pay bills. And people are dying at a younger and younger age. So the new decentralized demographic economic system is a system where economic power, resources, and decision making are redistributed to the demographic communities, allowing those communities to own, control, govern their own economic ecosystem. This model seeks to address systemic inequalities by empowering each individual group into building ecosystems all across the country that is tied to their culture, their societal norms, and their needs. Some of the most important points about this new system is that this economy is built to work outside the influences of mega corporations. It excludes financial influences from multimillionaires and billionaires. There's a cap on the income for businesses and individuals, so that way we don't end up in the same type of um, interferences as we have today. And the most important thing about DDE is that it's not vertical wealth, The wealth is not vertical. The wealth is, in fact, circular. The core principles of DDE is autonomy and self-determination. This is something that is lacking. We need citizens to truly determine their future and the direction of their future. We cannot have billionaires determining the future of people because their idea for future is to fire all the humans, keep a small handful of humans who can hack and build robots, and then replace humans with robots and AI. Then you have to ask the question, what's going to happen to the human? And the obvious response is extermination. So autonomy and self-determination, targeted equity. Each demographic are given resources for them to start businesses. And the goal is to close the wealth gap and to keep the money circulating in their community without being influenced negatively, money going out, or negative monies coming in by the wealthy. It allows them to develop their culture because this new system keeps culture and values and needs of the communities intact. And interdependence. The most important thing about this is interdependence because we want that each group they can interact with other groups so that there's no protectionism or isolationism. So let's take a look at some decentralized demographic economy. Okay, the first and most important part of this decentralized economy is that the people, each demographic, must own and control artificial intelligence. Okay, hold on here 1 second. Okay, let's see here. I'm trying to go back. It's not letting me go back. That was an important slide that I needed you guys to see, but it's not letting me go back. But the most important thing, sorry about that, is that you have to own and control artificial intelligence. You have to own and control the algorithms. You have to own and control information and technology. Each demographic must own and control the new means with which they to govern wealth. Algorithms and AI are the new wealth aggregation tools. And if the average person if the average demographic does not control these AIs, none of us would be able to have upward mobility. The system built into the system will be economic classism on a level unseen before in history. Okay, so the most important thing again is each demographic must own and control their own AI outside of the claws and the clutches of the billionaires. Now, funding, I don't know why it's not letting me go back, but that's okay. Funding is a major part of getting this off the ground, and I believe that governments should fund this and corporations should fund this. And the reason why governments and corporations should fund it without any influence is because when corporations bankrupt the country and they are in need of bailouts, the government takes taxpayers' dollars and bails them out. The corporations in turn fires employees and posts profits. So instead of that money going to corporations to the tune of 6.4 trillion and 7 trillion, that money should go to citizens in order to develop decentralized economic system. Centralized economic funding will diversify local economies, which are less vulnerable to global shocks such as pandemics, supply chain crises, and centralized corporate monopolies. The money in those communities would circulate in those communities, creating jobs and closing the wealth gap. One of the ways in which we can do this also is funding grassroots economic shift in decision making from corporate and reducing exploitation and fostering equity. So these are some of the sectors we're going to take a look at the US economy and some novel sectors that this type of new economy to go with the new man could bring about. So we have the primary sectors: agriculture, farming, fishing, aquaculture, forestry, logging, mining, and extraction. Secondary is automotive, aerospace, construction, chemical, electronics, food and beverage, textiles, steel, and heavy industry. Tertiary sectors are the third sector: retail, finance, real estate, healthcare, education, transportation, hospitality, entertainment, legal. Fourth, IT, telecommunications, data science, fintech, financial tech, research and development. Five, government and public administration, which is being gutted, military and national security, nonprofit, and cultural and creative industries. And then six, this is a novel type of approach to dealing with um, the destruction of natural ecosystems. So we need to create a sector where there's soil regeneration and land restoration, regenerative agriculture, so no-till farming, crop rotation, composting, cover cropping, topsoil restoration, urban green spaces, and desert reversal projects. A novel type of economic sector would be fish stock replenishment. Instead of these big fishing industries draining the ocean of fish, we need to start replacing the fish. As they take out, we put back in. Regeneration of coral reefs, expansion of wetlands and river restoration, plastic and waste cleanup, reforestation and native tree planting. So this should be a major part, a major sector, economic sector. And one of the great places for this to take place is rural parts of the country. Rural parts of the country where there's not a lot of investments and there's not a lot of infrastructure. So one of the good things in creating this novel type of economic sector where we're going to actually green the country, and greening the country is not taking, minerals using slave labor in the Congo with children mining the minerals, and then you're putting it in an electric vehicle, which, like electric vehicles produces dirty electricity. That's more dirty electricity going into the atmosphere. How is this clean? No, real green is actual trees, are actual trees. So one of the economic sectors that we can create is targeting rural areas for reforestation and native tree planting, regional tree planting, that's large scale reforestation, urban, and then we get into the urban and suburban with tree canopies, agroforestry and food forests, and disaster and fire resilience. Another economic sector that we should focus on is the increase in the insect population in areas that we green that are not inhabited by too many people. So an insect population recovery, pollinator habitat protection, meaning we actually, you know, work on rehabilitating native bee species, soil and microorganism revival, natural pest control, and butterfly and bee sanctuaries. Another novel type of US economic sector is wildlife and ecosystem restoration, where we reintroduce native species that are either going extinct or have become extinct, on the brink of extinction, back into their natural habitat. We create protected wildlife corridors, and restoring greenlands and savannas and reducing light and noise pollution. Okay. So sustainable economic incentives with real green job creation, not green as in electric vehicles. Electricity and electric vehicles are not green. Okay, electricity produces dirty electricity. So therefore, it's not green. Green are trees, bees, plants, animals, soil, clean air, clean water. And biodiversity offsets, where there's financial rewards for ecosystem restoration projects. And in rural areas, now that we have an actual natural economy for rural areas, now you can develop ecotourism and regenerative travel in those areas. One of the novel sectors that we came up with for the new America is the Great America Water Project. And that project is a national initiative that goes along all 50 states, cleaning up all the waterways and developing sustainable water courses for ecological balance, clean drinking water, and climate resilience. National cleanup, national waterway cleanup and pollution prevention, large scale removal of industrial waste, plastics and agricultural runoff from rivers, lakes, and oceans, watershed restoration, rehabilitating wetlands, rebuilding natural floodplains, restoring groundwater and recharge areas to improve water quality and water diversity, and advanced purification, etc., etc. So now that we're going to have a national water project where we restore the integrity and the purity of the water, what are we going to do with the waste? We got to deal with the waste. And one of the reasons why they want to depopulate the population, instead of the wealthy assuming responsibility for creating toxic products, selling it to the people, and those products pollute the environment, they've come to the conclusion that the problem is not them, the problem is the people who buy the products, and the only way to clean the environment is the carbon tax and depopulate, as opposed to a great American cleanup project. And that project entails the development of a new emerging space agency, a rocket and space economy. It's a national initiative to develop a low cost, high efficiency rocket to sun program for safe disposal of nuclear waste, plastics, landfills, and other toxic materials by using a very powerful tool that we have, the sun. Design and manufacture. Our geniuses will design and manufacture reusable high payload, cost effective rockets specifically for waste storage, waste transportation, waste disposal into the sun to be burned. And we will use AI, automation, and advanced propulsion technologies to assist us in developing and doing this. We create a national waste collection and processing system. We have the waste management systems on Earth, but now we have to get the waste to space and then phase 3 into the sun. And then we create strict safety and environmental and space regulations in order to do that. Okay, this is just a continuation of some of the things we could do. Asteroid redirection for waste storage. Identify and redirect stable, non-colliding asteroids as long-term waste storage sites before we transport into the sun. We can establish orbital facilities that break down and repurpose space compatible waste using solar powered reactors and AI driven sorting systems to extract materials, and utilize high velocity propulsion to send non recyclable hazardous waste into uninhabited deep space. I don't agree with that part because I think our waste goes into the sun can incinerate it with no toxic outflow, right? So these are just ideas to play around, right? So once we start cleaning, we're going to accumulate waste. The excess waste from cleaning up the environment has to go somewhere. And I propose the smartest thing for us to do is to get the waste off the planet, not shift the waste, not take the waste and shift it here, take the waste and shift it there. If we don't deal with the waste by getting the waste off the planet, then we're left with only one other solution: depopulation, right? So now we come to decentralized demographic economies. Women's economy, self-explanatory. A woman's economy consists of standalone economic ecosystems exclusively driven by women, where women own, operate, and sustain businesses in interconnected networks. The Black economy. The Black economy is a thriving standalone economy exclusively for Black individuals built on ownership of institutions, supply chains, marketplaces, autonomous financial systems for wealth creation and circulation. That's for banking, finance, investing, and then cultural and economic empowerment that reflects their communities. Latino economy, Latino owned industries and supply chains. These are businesses, trade networks, and financial institutions owned and operated by Latinos that reflect their culture and also the cuisine of the Latino people, and also the financial institutions that you need to make that happen. One of the most important things I think we need to do is less time with children learning and half of the time with them learning practical hands-on skills. We got to get children earning. They're brilliant enough, they're smart enough, and they can do it. And this would take a major strain off of parents. Okay? The youth economy. I think if children want to earn money, get them out there earning money, but children need to be earning money without being taxed, and they should, as soon as they feel they're ready, be empowered with the knowledge and the materials to go out there in their own economy. So children need an economy of their own. Men, I believe, need an economy of their own. Much the same as women need their own economy. So a man-owned industry and infrastructure. These are independent business network, trade systems, financial institutions, fully owned and operated by men, ensuring self-reliance and economic strength. A woman is not a man is not a woman can never understand a man can never understand a woman. We need institutions for men, much the same as women need institutions for women. And if the two want to mix, there's an economy for that too. One of the things that's really dear to my heart is an elderly economy because of the way in which elderly people are treated in the West. They are not treated well. The elderly and indigent economies is a structured financial, social, and business ecosystem designed to support aging populations, low income seniors, and indigent individuals. The purpose of this is so that elderly and the indigent are not falling through the cracks, the poverty cracks, right? So in that economy, elderly people could start their own businesses, micro businesses, SMEs, farming, artisan crafts, food production, caregiving, media networks, radio, television. But the elderly needs a system that's reflective and representative of them. Another industry that I think is really important is veterans economy. So, it's really unique the way how United States sees their veterans, okay? One day they worship them as saviors, and then the next day they throw them away like rags. So it's really this bipolar approach to veterans. And for me personally, I'm not a veteran, but I understand, having known veterans and lived with them, this bipolar approach where people either worship them or or society just throws them away like rags. I think veterans need their own economy, no, a standalone economy that reflects them, that understands them, that caters to them. Um, and allowing them to be financially self-sustaining, also to provide housing and systems uniquely situated for veterans. LGBTQ economy. I believe that an LGBTQ economy is needed. Not because I am not gay. It doesn't mean that I'm going to deny the right to live by other people. And I think that the LGBTQ community, as with many marginalized communities, have been treated shamelessly. And I don't understand how people claim to be so intelligent yet treat people with such disdain. Anyway, LGBTQ individuals, like as any other human being, they have a lot to offer. And I think it would fare well for the LGBTQ community, instead of trying to fit in to society, a society that often rejects them. I think it is more intelligent for them to create their own. So, a self sustaining standalone economy designed for LGBTQ individuals through business ecosystems, financial independence, and community driven growth. The money would circulate within their community and they can develop specialized education for their people, for people who are part of their community, without having other communities bash them or treat them like second or third class citizens, right? Religious economy. I believe that religious people also need their own economy, because if they have their own economy, there will be less of an influencing on other people's economy, right? So a religious economy would be designed for people of specific faiths, and they're free to live by and free to work in an economy that reflects their values, much the same as the LGBTQ community would reflect their value. Asian economy, a standalone Asian economy would be the same. It would be um, built around the Asian community, owning their own industries and trade networks, their own independent supply chains, manufacturing hubs, technology driven enterprises. It would reflect their culture and their financial autonomy and their education, innovation, and skills. Once these economies are established, one of the things we want to do is we want to guard against things like protectionism, right? Where each individual group begin to act like, no, no, this is our little thing and none of you are invited. And then now you can't walk there, and then it becomes segregation. So these systems are not designed to segregate society. It's designed to reflect society so that society can self-actualize according to their own individual groups, while at the same time living amongst different groups. So one of the the final parts in the one of the final things that we address in the decentralized economy is that we want to have them tapping in and working together. Okay, so they can work independently, but every once in a while they should tap in and work together, right? So we want a collaborative system where decentralized economies interconnect, and this can be done through knowledge bank, trade investments, and skill sharing. It could be done through research hubs. It could be done through inter-economic trade, meaning the women's economy trades with the men's economy, trades with the black economy, trades with the Asian economy. They could share skills, knowledge, investments, you know, procedures, skills, etc. We want to also develop and exchange skills in terms of training. So we would host cross economy educational programs, vocational training, AI assisted mentorship, development, etc. And then finally, we're left with governance and policy collaboration in order to make things better. So, in my humble opinion, America is in a beautiful chaos. It is chaotic. It is painful. You can't see where things are headed. They have a plan for where they want to take the United States. That plan is 90% of the people unemployed, 95% of the people unemployed, and replaced with AI and robots. And it will not be robots and AI working with people, it will be robots and AI dominating people. And one of the ways in which we could do that is we must transfer the powers, the economic power, back into the hands of the people. And then the people can work with robots and work with AI, but people are in charge. And not just people in charge, but each group must be able to self actualize as based upon their skill sets. And each group must be able to invent, innovate, and develop according to their abilities. And I think the beautiful chaos, and it is chaotic, it is painful. I've been there. In fact, it's all I knew. That chaos, we are at a unique place in this country. There is a place for politicians. They have their place. But it is time for people to mobilize and arrest the economy out of the hands of billionaires back into the hands of people. And we need to keep it there. Thank you for listening. Please share this everywhere. And I hope you see what I'm trying to accomplish.